Well, here we are again.
Yes.
Just back from talking to Lizzie Rowan.
Oh, wasn't she lovely?
Yes. Splendid. In her mum and dad's house, 400-year-old house.
I know. So if you hear any creaks, it's the creaking of the old house or of our old bones, but nothing to worry about.
Speak for yourself and your old bones. I'm young and sprightly.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten.
Right. Yes, I spoke to Lizzie after the Full of Joy Animal Sanctuary was literally battered by Storm Awen.
I know. Yeah.
We went to have a look at it first and have a walk around it with her. Saw her two lovely pigs.
Yes. They just wanted to be stroked.
Yes,
One of them did, and kind of scruffled.
Or I think two of the
nose.
four. We saw the two lad pigs. We didn't see the girl pigs.
No.
And the goat.
Yeah.
And the cockerel. But the other animals were down in a field somewhere, having been rescued from the battering of the storm.
Rescue centre.
But
yeah.
it was devastated, wasn't it?
I know.
There was a few walls there, nothing that you would call a roof.
No.
And so they need a lot of help and support putting it back together.
Yeah, and I think they'll get it. There's lots of people in this valley who appreciate the likes of Lizzie and will do what they can to help.
Yes, absolutely. So we had a nice chat with it. It's tucked up out in the wilds, way above Eastwood and Todmorden, isn't it?
Just as well we had a 4-wheel drive car.
Yes. Yes. And the path down to the house was like almost like rock climbing.
Yeah.
But lovely, and what a fantastic job she's doing, and her wife TJ, and the various volunteers they have. And if anybody wants to help, there is, what are they called?
Just Giving, is it?
There's a Just Giving. The cat's trying to scratch me. There's a Just Giving. And it's not all animals are lovely. There's a Just Giving page, which is Full of Joy, Just Giving. You'll find it.
Yeah.
They have the various Facebook and Instagram pages and what have you as well.
Yeah, so if you look for Full of Joy, I'm sure you'll find it.
Yes.
Appreciate any help.
And she is a girl who's full of joy.
She is, yeah.
Have a listen to this.
We're sitting in a really lovely cosy kitchen up in the wilds of Todmorden. Is it still Todmorden?
Yeah.
Off Higher Eastwood. And about to talk to Lizzie
Rowan.
Who is part of the organising of the Animal Sanctuary, which she'll tell us more about.
Yes, so Lizzie, tell us, what's it called?
It's called Full of Joy Animal Sanctuary.
What a lovely name.
Well, we call it that because we wanted to, when we first started, we thought what we want to do is give joy to animals that they have had the worst life and they've been mistreated and all the rest of it, and we wanted to give them joy. And then we very quickly realised that as well as giving them joy, they gave us so much joy that
so
it worked both ways.
Yeah,
so we called it Full of Joy because it was just wonderful.
And the animals, I was expecting to see cats and dogs, and it's not, is it?
No, we're quite well in this area. There's always need for more rescues for cat and dogs, but the one thing that we didn't have was larger animal rescue, and that's what we've always kind of done. So we have larger things like ponies and sheep and goats and pigs. Particularly pigs have people took on what they thought were micro pigs, and they weren't. There was a big craze for it.
That, where they'd have them sitting in teacups and things like
I've
that.
never heard of micro pigs.
Oh, Dave, you've had a sheltered life.
I think there was a celebrity who had a micro pig in a handbag.
Oh no!
Right.
And everyone went, "Oh, I want to have a micro pig." And the trouble is, there's no such thing as micro pigs. So they then grew, and so there was this explosion of a need for homes for growing pigs. So that's one of the reasons we take on pigs as well.
Yeah.
It's like that. What's that woolly monkey place we went to in Cornwall? There's lots of woolly monkeys that belong in South America. And for some reason in the 60s or 70s, people decided they would make great pets, which they don't.
They don't make great. I mean, it goes
and now
in
there's
phases.
a sanctuary with them, but because they're several generations on, they can't really go back to South America. It's awful.
It is. It goes in crazes. So, I think there's a lot of pygmy goats that are turning out not to be pygmies. You do get pygmy goats, but there's a lot that have been sold and they're not. And then people ring and say, this goat's now really big.
Really indignant because it's grown to the size of a goat.
Yeah.
So,
that's goat-sized goats.
Goat-sized goats.
So, is that typical, things that have been pets on? Or do you come across, do they come your way for a variety of reasons?
Yeah, so it changes. So most of the pigs have come from, we work with, most people have heard of most people in my world have heard of Pigs in the Woods and Every Pig Rescue.
Mm-hmm. No, as
I said that, I thought they'd be ridiculous. So Every Pig Rescue, they don't look after pigs themselves, but they're an amazing charity that kind of people ring and say, I've got this pig that we no longer want, and they try and find homes. But one of the trouble is that a lot of people who've got these pet pigs don't understand pet behaviour. So they say they're aggressive, they've got behaviour. I'm laughing because pigs don't have behaviour problems. It's usually the people that don't understand the pig is the problem.
Yeah.
So we take the ones that can't be rehomed again quickly and easily to people who want a pet pig, say. So they'll ring us and say, we've got Annie and Susie, and they rang us and said they're aggressive, they're bitey, they're going to go to slaughter if somebody doesn't take them. But we took them and they're absolutely fine. And the trouble is that they've been kept. They take them as a micro pig, and so they're kept in the house with the dog. And they're dressed up and they're cuddled and they're kissed and they're made to be like this kind of pet. And then they grow and they grow and they grow. And
they behave like pigs.
And they start rooting because pigs root, and you don't, and then usually, and this has happened every time with every pig we've had, they're put in the garden. And the garden's usually very small, so the pig's rooting in the garden, and then they're locked in a shed. And so Sam, who you met earlier...
Oh, he's so affectionate, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was locked in like a coal shed for about a year and a half.
Oh, no.
And he'd never been... They had artificial grass even, so he'd never seen grass. And when we got him, they said he was aggressive and bitey and angry. And actually...
I'm not surprised.
He would be.
Well, I would be if you locked me in a shed.
Right. And he didn't have any bedding, and he had sores all over him. He was in a right... No. But what was lovely is when we brought him out to the field, and we've got a video of him, and he ran round for 20 minutes just jumping and leaping.
Yeah.
And he's the most, you saw, he's the most affectionate, kind pig. Yeah. So, So they can come that way, or sometimes animals are dumped. So Frodo, who you also met, was dumped in a wood in Cheshire with his brother. I think people just didn't want him anymore, so they dumped him, thinking that and they're domesticated, they've been pets, they can't suddenly go looking after themselves, they can't suddenly go, I know what to do, I'll be a wild pig, and they're not wild pigs, so he couldn't look after himself. So, he was starving. I don't want to take all these awful tales, but he was starving in a really bad way, and we went out to get him, and unfortunately we got there, his brother had been knocked over before, as we were getting there. He was knocked over on a road. But Frodo was the opposite of Sam. We got him home, and I think because he'd been dumped in a wood, we introduced him to a sty in straw, and he was like, I'm never coming out of the sty. I'm staying in the warm forever. But gradually he started realising he could come out and then go back in again, and it was okay. But, so we get them in all. So sometimes people ring us, sometimes other charities ring us. Sometimes our volunteers are amazing, and they'll see animals that are in trouble and say, this animal needs some help, and we'll step in that way.
And did you say the cockerel had been dumped on you?
So the other thing that happens is that people obviously are getting more aware that we're a sanctuary, so they just leave animals for us, which is really tricky because we like to do that absolute best for them, and you can't if you don't know what you've got. So we turned up. I think he's our third cockerel in the last that has just being dumped over the wall. And he's fine, he's lovely. But yeah, he was just thrown over, I think, because his wings were clipped, so he couldn't have flown in. Which was a bit of a giveaway. It was like, and we're not near anybody who's,
So it's people probably thinking the best thing I can do with this is throw it over the fence into the animal sanctuary.
Yeah.
They're not bad people, but
no, they're probably, and most people that you meet, there's nobody out there who thinks, today I'm going to abuse an animal. Maybe there's some, but not many. Today I'm going to be really horrible to an animal. Mostly it's just lack of understanding, like with the pigs. They want to do the best. They just, I think breeders probably need to be more aware.
Yes, they've got a lot to do with that, haven't they? Spreading the myth of pigs that won't grow into pigs.
Yeah, and it's just money making. Bad breeders, anyway.
Yeah. So how long have you been going?
This place has been going about 5 years, and then we ran it at our old place for about 3. Yeah, but
you're struggling at the moment, aren't you, because of the weather?
Well, Storm Eowyn a couple of weeks ago, all our buildings, all our stables, all our houses for the ponies and the goats were just destroyed. It was just the whole roof. Half the walls had flown over the road. The little lane at the top had flown over and was in a tree, just kind of hanging. And so we haven't got one shelter left up there. The geese houses survived and the pig houses survived, but the ponies and the goats houses were just gone, destroyed. Yeah.
So how are you managing, and what are you trying to do with it?
So we've got some lovely neighbours just down the way who, it was amazing. They just happened to have some fields and some stables that they weren't using at the moment, so they said we can temporarily use them, but it's a temporary measure. So we were walking the ponies down in like 60, 70 miles an hour wind, just walking them down. But they were amazing, and the goat just kind of followed on, and it was fine. So we got them down there. So they're safe at the moment, but there's not enough land down there for them, and there's not enough shelter either. So what we need to do as quickly as possible is rebuild our shelter. We've got people have been so lovely. We've had volunteers coming up to help clear it. And we had a ceilidh recently, which to raise money, and that was amazing.
Where was that?
It was at Todd Community Centre, and we'd organised it before as just our normal costs of vets and things. But I think because people knew what had happened, they turned up in droves, which was lovely. And we've got a Just Giving page, which people have been really generous. But we're about halfway there.
How much do you need?
So as a minimum, we're looking at kind of 15 grand to put it back. And we've got about, I think on the Just Giving page, we're almost at 7.5.
And what's the Just Giving page called?
It's Full of Joy Animal Sanctuary, Just Giving, yeah. And
so presumably,
TJ.
As well as money, if there's anyone out there with building skills and...
Yeah, so we've got a lovely guy who said he'd come and help build. We've got one builder who said he'd come. And we've got some of our amazing volunteers happen to be joiners, which
that's fantastic.
I know, which has been amazing. So there's a particular guy, Chris and Kirsten, he made us a temporary goat shelter. Because we were expecting 3 more goats to come, and it's just stunning. So they're helping, and lots of other joiners in the area have said they'll come and help. We really need a roofer. If there's anybody who's a roofer,
right. So you're fine for animal-loving joiners.
Yeah, animal-loving joiners there are plenty. If there's any more, we always want more joiners.
Animal-loving roofers.
Animal-loving roofers.
You'd be welcome as well.
There must be some out there.
Yeah.
The staggering amount of practical skills in this valley. So.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure the animal-loving roofer exists.
We'll find them. Yeah. But what's been amazing about it is, although it was so awful to see the state, the building just gone, miraculously not one of the animals had a scratch on. Even the animals that were in the building. It was, I don't know how that happened, but they were all fine. They were shocked, but they were fine. But also then there was this outpouring of love and support, which was so lovely. We're so grateful for living in this area because people took days off work to come and help us on that day. And since then we've had so many lovely messages, and it's been really touching on the Just Giving page that people have given lots and lots of money, but then there's been people who've given £3, and that actually made me really, you know, if you give £3, that's really lovely, isn't it? That's just such a kind thing to do, because that's obviously what they can give. So it's been quite overwhelming in love as well.
It is nice to have like someone who give you 10 grand or something.
Of course it is, yeah. And if anyone wants to give me 10 grand, I'll be just as grateful.
But the emotion of the £1, £2 or £3 is more powerful.
It really, really felt it. Actually, it was lovely, and just the messages of support we've had has just been lovely.
That's fantastic. So on on a normal basis, once it's before the storm and once it's all repaired again, what sort of things do the volunteers do?
So it's not very glamorous, I'm afraid. People have come up and think, oh, lovely animals, we're going to straighten them. Mostly it's poo. Mostly it revolves around poo. So we're picking poo up from the fields every day, poo picking, and from the pigs we clean their fields, and then it's cleaning the stables, that kind of thing.
Does it go in for anything?
You're trying to make it sound glamorous now.
I'm just giving the real. It's about poo.
Is the poo recycled into like fuel, or I don't know?
Apparently you can do that. You can squish it into bricks and dry it out. I've never done that.
Maybe you could get a volunteer.
Maybe that's on the list. Yeah. One of the reasons we have to, apart from we were doing it anyway for kind of animal management. It's good for the land and it's good for the animals to take the poo off. But we've also had a survey done by Peachy Steve Hinchcliffe of the National Trust. Oh. And our field at the far end has been designated wildlife area for fungi. So
yes, we talked to him.
I was going to say you talked to Steve.
Yeah.
So our site there has got lots of rare fungi on it. So we've had to take the animals off. They're not allowed to graze that site. But that's one of the reasons we take the poo off as well, is because it's an ancient grassland that can't have too many nutrients put in it.
Right.
But we were doing it anyway for the animals. Yeah. But the other things we give a lot of enrichment. So we had volunteers come this morning and we were grooming the ponies, and then twice a week we try and walk the ponies out to give them a bit of fun. Because we try and stay very small, partly because of money, but also because we want to give the animals the best life we can. So the animals get walked, the goats get groomed, the sheep like a cuddle, the pig gets stroked and checked every day. You know, we want to give them the best life, not just surviving. So it's not just poo.
And you run it with your partner,
my wife, TJ.
Your wife, TJ. Yeah. So is she as involved as you, or?
Yeah, she's training to be a vet nurse at the moment, so that's why she's not here. But no, she's totally involved as well, and she's much better at the DIY part than me. So she she does the animals as well, but she's also in charge of like the fences. If I tried to do a fence, it would just fall down. But she does all the fencing and make like playgrounds for goats. I know it sounds completely crazy, but goats really like jumping on things and jumping off things,
like
and
seesaws.
And kind of platforms, and they like to explore. So we make kind of enrichment activities for the goats as well.
Goat playground.
Full of Joy sounds like an ideal name for this place.
Yes.
I'm sounding more and more crazy, but we're all happy. Yeah.
It's lovely. Do you get school children coming up to have a look at the animals? Just thinking, do schools get involved, or would that be too?
We don't, and there's been quite a lot of pressure on us to open it up to kind of open days and things like that, and we don't, because we take on the most traumatised animals.
Right.
So although we get a lot from it, and the people get a lot from it, we're there for the animals, and they don't actually like a lot of noise, a lot of people, they like to get to know you. And so when our volunteers come up, we very carefully let them get to know the pigs or the ponies. Yeah. And then they slowly build it up. And if the animals are happy, then they can start to interact with them. But they don't.
That's a really good answer you are there for the animals. Yeah,
we are.
I was thinking in terms of funding and things. Do you get funding from?
It would be a lot easier if we could open up and have, but Yeah, no, we're there for the animals. So no, we do stalls. So we have this group of volunteers who are amazing crafters. And they're just as important as the people who come up on the, and do the stuff with the animals. They're amazing. They sit at home and they kind of do knit as pigs and things. There's a pig up there that's been knitted by one of our volunteers. And that raises us money. And then we go out and have stalls at various fairs and fetes and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we have events. We work really closely with Calderdale Badger Protection Group, and we've been running some joint events with them. So we've... we had the Daniel Bath and his band did as a night, and we had the Cayley recently, and we're having a plant sale in spring, things like that. Just
so
to try
it's
and raise
fundraising,
money.
It's not kind of lottery money or anything like that.
There's not that much out there, so I try and do funding bids and things like that. There's not that much out there for animals, so the way that you'd get the funding bids is to say it was for people. But then the emphasis would change again and we'd be doing it for the people. So it's really tricky to kind of keep your core is looking after the animals.
All the more reason to direct everyone to your Just Giving page.
Amazing.
Fundraise.
Very much so. Yes. So have you been looking after animals since you were a little girl? Or did you always have animals around?
I grew up in a very with my mum and dad we always had pets, dogs, cats, guinea pigs, all that kind of thing.
Were you one of those, Mum, it followed me home?
Yeah, exactly kids? That, yeah. And my mum and dad were so lovely, they're just going to go, yep, come on then, That was always the, and I've always just dreamt of this, really, of having animals and being around them and looking after them, and it's wonderful. People always say it's like kind of noble, and you're like, it's not noble, it's amazing. it's literally joyful. You get as much out of it as you put in. So.
It is true, and you mentioned something before we started recording about it being good for people's mental health.
It is. And I took early retirement because I've got physical, and I don't mind saying I've got mental. I've got labels coming out of my ears, mental and physical labels. And the thing that keeps me grounded and okay and not kind of in crisis is being with the animals all the time. And I know a lot of our volunteers would say the same, that they've all had, whether they have got mental health issues or whether it's just well-being issues, what you get back is this... kind of grounding and love. I think
that's what I meant. Really, it's good for well-being.
It is good for well-being. It's good. And we try to be really inclusive. So we've got volunteers who have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, and we just try and find what they can do, and that's great with the animals because everyone can do something. And it's
Well, thanks very much, Lizzie. That's really interesting and well done. You are part of the many sort of communities in this valley that's doing something worthwhile. Have you got a Facebook?
Yeah, we've got a website, Facebook, Instagram. We're all on it. I'm not. It has to be
all over the socials.
Okay, so find on all the appropriate socials.